NEC 110.3 states that electrical equipment shall be installed in a manner that does not present an electrical or fire hazard. While NEC 110.3 does not explicitly address temporary equipment, its intent is to ensure the safe installation and operation of all electrical equipment, regardless of its permanence. An inspector may have concerns regarding potential hazards associated with a 460 volts temporary air conditioning unit. These concerns could include arc flash, short circuit, and ground fault issues. Firstly, 460 volt systems have a high arc flash hazard which can cause severe injury or death. Secondly, a short circuit in the temporary equipment could damage the equipment or cause a fire. Thirdly, a ground fault in the temporary equipment could cause a shock hazard. To address these concerns, several mitigation measures could be considered. Firstly, install the air conditioning unit in a suitably rated enclosure to protect it from weather and physical damage. Secondly, provide arc flash protection devices such as arc flash relays or arc flash suits for personnel working on the equipment. Thirdly, install ground fault circuit interrupters or GFCIs to protect against ground faults. Fourthly, ensure that personnel operating the equipment are properly trained in arc flash safety and ground fault protection. It's important to remember that the goal is to ensure the safe operation of the temporary air conditioning unit, and addressing the inspector's concerns through appropriate safety measures is crucial. While NEC 110.3 does not specifically address temporary equipment, the inspector's concerns about potential hazards are valid. By implementing appropriate mitigation measures, it is possible to operate the temporary air conditioning unit safely. It is recommended to discuss these measures with the inspector to resolve the discrepancy. The key is to demonstrate that the installation minimizes the risks associated with 460 volts equipment, regardless of its temporary nature. Some important considerations for temporary electrical installations include, but are not limited to, proper grounding, overcurrent protection, and the use of appropriate wiring methods. Grounding ensures that fault currents have a safe path to return to the source, minimizing the risk of electric shock. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, protect the equipment and wiring from damage due to excessive current flow. The wiring method used should be appropriate for the environment and the type of equipment being served. For example, in wet locations, waterproof wiring and connections should be used. Additionally, it is important to ensure that all electrical equipment is properly labeled and that personnel are aware of the potential hazards associated with the equipment. Warning signs should be posted in areas where there is a risk of electric shock or arc flash. Regular inspections and maintenance should be performed on temporary electrical installations to identify and correct any potential hazards. This includes checking for damaged wiring, loose connections, and malfunctioning equipment. Any repairs or modifications to the electrical system should be performed by qualified personnel. When selecting electrical equipment for temporary installations, it is important to choose equipment that is rated for the intended use. For example, if the equipment is to be used outdoors, it should be rated for wet locations. Additionally, the equipment should be properly sized for the load it will be serving. Overloading electrical equipment can lead to overheating and potential fire hazard. It is also important to consider the ambient temperature when selecting electrical equipment. High ambient temperatures can reduce the capacity of electrical equipment, so it may be necessary to choose equipment with a higher rating. Before energizing a temporary electrical installation, it is important to perform a thorough inspection to ensure that everything is installed correctly and that there are no potential hazards. This includes checking the grounding system, the overcurrent protection devices, and the wiring connections. Once the inspection is complete, the electrical system can be energized and put into service. However, it is important to continue to monitor the system for any signs of problems. If any issues are detected, the system should be de-energized and the problem should be corrected before the system is put back into service. Remember that compliance with NEC 110.3 involves a comprehensive approach to electrical safety. It's not just about using listed components, but also about how those components are assembled and installed to minimize potential hazards. The inspector's role is to ensure that the installation meets the minimum safety requirements of the code, and addressing their concerns proactively is the best way to achieve approval. The key takeaways regarding NEC 110.3 and temporary electrical equipment are the importance of safety regardless of the equipment's permanence, understanding potential hazards like arc flash, short circuit, and ground fault, and implementing mitigation measures such as proper enclosures, arc flash protection, and ground fault circuit interrupters. Furthermore, training personnel and communicating with the inspector are crucial steps to ensure compliance and safe operation. Consider, too, that any temporary power source should be properly grounded. Grounding ensures that in the event of a fault, the current will safely return to the source, tripping a breaker or fuse and preventing electrical shock. Make sure the grounding electrode conductor is properly sized according to the NEC and that the grounding electrode system is appropriate for the site conditions. If using a generator, ensure it is properly bonded and grounded. Temporary wiring must be installed in a safe manner. Avoid running cords across walkways or areas where they could be damaged. Use appropriate supports to keep wiring off the ground and out of harm's way. Pay attention to the ampacity of the conductors used for temporary wiring. Ensure that the conductors are sized appropriately for the load they will be carrying, and that they are protected by overcurrent devices of the correct size. Never overload temporary wiring, as this can create a fire hazard. Weather protection is crucial for temporary electrical equipment and wiring. Use weatherproof enclosures and fittings to protect equipment from rain, snow, and other elements. Ensure that all connections are properly sealed to prevent moisture from entering. Ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, are essential for protecting personnel from electric shock. Use GFCIs on all temporary circuits that are used to power equipment in wet or damp locations. Regularly test GFCIs to ensure that they are functioning properly. Proper labeling of temporary electrical equipment and wiring is important for safety. Clearly label all circuits, disconnects, and other components. Use warning signs to alert personnel to potential hazards, such as high voltage or arc flash. Inspections are necessary to ensure that temporary electrical installations are safe and compliant with the NEC. Perform regular inspections of temporary wiring, equipment, and grounding systems. Correct any deficiencies immediately to prevent accidents. It is also important to have a qualified electrician inspect the installation before it is energized. Training is crucial for personnel who work with temporary electrical equipment. Provide training on the hazards of electricity, proper grounding techniques, the use of GFCIs, and other safety practices. Ensure that personnel are qualified to perform the tasks they are assigned. Coordination with other trades is necessary when installing temporary electrical systems. Work with other trades to ensure that the temporary electrical system does not interfere with their work and that their work does not damage the temporary electrical system. Proper planning is essential for safe and efficient temporary electrical installations. Develop a detailed plan that includes the location of equipment, the variety of wiring, the size of conductors, and the type of overcurrent protection. Ensure that the plan is approved by a qualified electrician before work begins. Documentation is important for temporary electrical installations. Keep records of all inspections, tests, and repairs. Document any changes or modifications to the temporary electrical system. Maintain a copy of the approved plan on site. When removing temporary electrical installations, take care to disconnect all power sources and remove all wiring and equipment. Dispose of all materials properly. Restore the site to its original condition. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides specific requirements for temporary electrical installations. These requirements are intended to ensure the safety of personnel and property. Familiarize yourself with the applicable NEC requirements before installing any temporary electrical system. Proper grounding and bonding practices are crucial for temporary electrical systems. Grounding ensures that in the event of a fault, the current will safely return to the source, tripping a breaker or fuse and preventing electrical shock. Bonding ensures that all metal parts of the electrical system are connected together, creating a low impedance path for fault current. Overcurrent protection is essential for protecting temporary electrical systems from damage due to excessive current flow. Use circuit breakers or fuses to protect all circuits from overload and short-circuit conditions. Ensure that the overcurrent devices are sized appropriately for the conductors they are protecting. Wiring methods for temporary electrical systems must be safe and reliable. Use approved wiring methods such as flexible cords, cables, or raceways. Avoid using open wiring or exposed conductors. Support wiring properly to prevent damage and ensure that it is not a tripping hazard. Disconnecting means must be readily accessible and clearly labeled. Provide a disconnecting means for each temporary circuit. Ensure that the disconnecting means is readily accessible and clearly labeled so that it can be easily located in an emergency. Hazardous locations require special precautions when installing temporary electrical systems. Use explosion-proof equipment and wiring methods in hazardous locations where flammable gases or vapors may be present. Follow all applicable NEC requirements for hazardous locations. Wet locations also require special precautions when installing temporary electrical systems. Use weatherproof equipment and wiring methods in wet locations where equipment may be exposed to rain, snow, or other elements. Protect all connections from moisture. Portable generators are commonly used to power temporary electrical systems. Ensure that the generator is properly grounded and bonded. Use a transfer switch to prevent backfeed into the utility grid. Follow all manufacturer's instructions for operating and maintaining the generator. Temporary lighting is often required for construction sites and other temporary installations. Use weatherproof lighting fixtures and wiring methods. Protect lighting fixtures from damage. Provide adequate illumination for the work being performed. Extension cords are frequently used in temporary electrical systems. Use heavy-duty extension cords that are rated for the intended use. Inspect extension cords regularly for damage. Avoid overloading extension cords. Ground fault circuit interrupters, or DFCIs, are required for all temporary circuits that supply power to receptacles in wet or damp locations. DFCIs protect personnel from electric shock by interrupting the circuit when a ground fault is detected. Test GFCIs regularly to ensure that they are functioning properly. Electrical safety training is essential for all personnel who work with temporary electrical systems. Provide training on the hazards of electricity, proper grounding techniques, the use of GFCIs, and other safety practices. Ensure that personnel are qualified to perform the tasks they are assigned. Regular inspections are necessary to ensure that temporary electrical systems are safe and compliant with the NEC. Perform regular inspections of temporary wiring, equipment, and grounding systems. Correct any deficiencies immediately to prevent accidents. The inspector's concern is valid. You must be able to demonstrate how you are making the installation safe. Proper documentation is key to demonstrating compliance with NEC 110.3 and other applicable codes. Maintain detailed records of all inspections, tests, repairs, and modifications to the temporary electrical system. This documentation should include the date, time, and name of the person performing the work, as well as a description of the work performed. Having accurate and complete documentation will help you demonstrate to the inspector that you have taken all necessary steps to ensure the safety of the temporary electrical system. When dealing with electrical inspections, it's often helpful to have a clear understanding of the inspector's perspective. They are primarily concerned with ensuring that the installation meets the minimum safety requirements of the NEC and other applicable codes. By addressing their concerns proactively and demonstrating that you have taken all necessary steps to ensure the safety of the installation, you can often resolve any discrepancies and obtain approval for the meter. To effectively communicate with the inspector, it's important to be knowledgeable about the NEC requirements and be able to explain how your installation meets those requirements. You should also be prepared to provide documentation to support your claims. If the inspector identifies any discrepancies, be willing to work with them to find a solution that meets the code requirements and ensures the safety of the installation. Remember, the goal is to work together to create a safe electrical environment for everyone. Furthermore, temporary installations may also fall under the purview of the authority having jurisdiction, or UJ, which may have additional requirements beyond the NEC. Check with the local AHA to ensure that you are in compliance with all applicable regulations. Remember, too, that electrical accidents can have serious consequences. Always prioritize safety when working with electricity. If you are not qualified to perform electrical work, hire a licensed electrician to do the job. When working with electricity, always use the proper personal protective equipment, or PPE, such as safety glasses, gloves, and insulated tools. Follow all safety procedures and guidelines to prevent accidents. It is also important to consider the specific requirements of the temporary air conditioning unit itself. The manufacturer's instructions should be followed carefully when installing and operating the unit. This includes ensuring that the unit is properly grounded, that the correct voltage is being supplied, and that the unit is not overloaded. It is also important to ensure that the unit is properly ventilated to prevent overheating. Additionally, it is crucial to inspect the temporary air conditioning unit regularly for any signs of damage or malfunction. This includes checking the wiring, the connections, and the components of the unit. If any problems are detected, the unit should be de-energized and the problem should be corrected before the unit is put back into service. Maintaining open communication with the electrical inspector is essential for a successful project. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to them for clarification. By working together, you can ensure that the temporary electrical installation meets all applicable codes and standards, and that the project is completed safely and efficiently. Moreover, it is essential to have a written plan for the temporary electrical installation. This plan should include details such as the location of the equipment, the wiring methods to be used, the overcurrent protection devices, and the grounding system. The plan should be reviewed and approved by a qualified electrician before any work begins. Having a well-defined plan will help to ensure that the temporary electrical installation is installed correctly and safely. Also, remember that temporary electrical installations are often subject to harsh environmental conditions such as extreme temperatures, humidity, and exposure to the element. Therefore, it is important to select equipment and materials that are suitable for these conditions. Use weatherproof enclosures, corrosion-resistant wiring, and other appropriate materials to ensure that the temporary electrical installation can withstand the rigors of the environment. In addition to the technical aspects of the installation, it is also important to consider the human element. Make sure that all personnel who will be working with the temporary electrical system are properly trained and qualified. Provide them with the necessary safety equipment and instructions. Emphasize the importance of following all safety procedures and guidelines. By fostering a culture of safety, you can help to prevent accidents and injuries.